Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is February 18th, 2025. No, 2026. I thought I had moved on from 2025, but I guess I still got some residuals. Anyways, today we have an interesting podcast for you because, ladies and gentlemen, a former referee has pretty much put an end to all these Negreira allegations. I'm going to tell you exactly what he said. Also, Alejandro Balde drawing some interest from the Premier League. And finally, Barcelona are ready and working on renewing another Barcelona midfielder. We have a lot to discuss. So let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Boo, and welcome to Barca News' live podcast. It's on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but where I also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering any questions, getting a discussion going. So start filling out the chat section. For those of you who be watching when the stream ends and you don't want to listen to the comments, well, I will be putting chapters in the timeline and timestamps in the description that you can use to skip through straight just through the news rather than do the comments as well. Now, if you don't see the chapters right away, head to the description and you'll see the timestamps there because YouTube has to process the video or the stream once it's over for those chapters to appear on the timeline. And a lot of times YouTube takes a very long time to process that stream. So if they haven't processed it, the chapters won't appear, but don't worry because the timestamps will be in the description. So you can always check there. Anyways, having said that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. All this helps the channel continue to grow. If you're looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise from any other football team or any sports team, make sure to Fanatics for other sports or kit bag for other football teams and goal kits, football teams as well. And if you want to place any sports bets, not just on Barcelona matches, but on any sporting event, you're feeling lucky, you feel like you can make some extra moolah on boxing matches, football matches, any sporting event around the world, you can head to Bet Us. All links are in the description. And click on them. You get access to offers, deals, discounts that otherwise you would not get if you don't use the links. All right, let's begin with the news. But first, I want to take a sip of this delicious drink because it is Wednesday. I had an incredibly long day. Cheers. If you're wondering what it is, it's Fernet. Fernet is a Italian alcoholic drink, but they also drink it in Argentina. And, my friends got me a bottle when I visited. And it says Fernet with grapefruit soda or pomelo. Very delicious. Very delicious. But anyways, let's begin with the news. And as always, the first segment of news comprised of multiple bits of news. It started with an update on the Champions League because the first leg of the playoffs is officially over. There was matches yesterday. There were matches today. The first leg is over. Next week will be the second leg. And after that, we will know what teams will qualify to the round of 16, where the top 8 from the group league stages are waiting, including Barcelona, who finished 5th. So right now, Barcelona chilling in the round of 16, awaiting the results of these playoff matches to see who our opponent will be. Now, let's look at these matches because this is how it ended yesterday. We had 4 matches. Today, we had another 4. But we have first Galatasaray defeating Juventus 5-2. My God, how bad is Juventus doing? I mean, it's insane, man, how much they have fallen from their glory years where they used to be a contender for the Champions League, where they won the Serie A. I think it was like 9 years in a row or something like that, to now losing 5-2 against Galatasaray. Now, of course, there is still a second leg that will be played in Italy, Turin to be more specific, but I don't know. I don't see this happening. I don't see Juventus turning things around, but of course, it's only a 3-goal difference. Let me know what you guys think. Then PSG, who started losing. They were losing 2-0 against Monaco. They ended up mounting a comeback, winning 2-3. Of course, the second match will be in Paris. I think this is a given. I think Paris will go through because it's Paris, PSG. There's nobody in the league can compete with them. and also Monaco are in a very, very bad state. And then we have Real Madrid winning against Benfica by a 1-goal difference in a match that once again was full of controversy because, of course, Madrid cannot win without controversy, including a punch by Valverde against a Benfica player who somehow, some way, not only did the ref miss, but the VAR missed. And let's not forget, Valverde already has done this before, right? He punched Alex Baena in the parking lot after a match because supposedly Alex Baena said something about Valverde's wife. Nothing happened there. No investigation, no arrest, no suspension, nothing. So now he did it again. And again, it looks like he's going to be getting away. And in another match where Vinicius Jr., well, doing Vinicius Jr. things where he spends every single second of every single match insulting players, insulting coaches, insulting refs, insulting fans. But the moment someone says something to him, all of a sudden he starts crying like a little bitch and then pulls the race card. And now apparently they're going to open an investigation to see if, Vinicius was racially abused. Absolute shit show. But anyways, 1-0. Of course, the second match will be at the Santiago Bernabeu. And, Benfica still have a chance of knocking Real Madrid out. And then we have Dortmund, who beat Atalanta 2-0, with the second leg, of course, being in Italy. Now, today's match is Newcastle absolutely killing Karabakh. I don't know how to fucking say that. But anyways, I think this is a given. Newcastle's going to go through. Bayer Leverkusen beating Olympiacos 2-0. Second match will be, of course, in Germany. I think this one, Leverkusen will go through as well. And then, a surprise today, Bodo defeated Inter Milan 3-1. That is crazy. I did not see that coming whatsoever. 3-1. Now, of course, the second match will be in Milan. So Inter, I guess, still have a chance of turning this around and mounting a comeback. But nonetheless, I mean, you should not be losing 3-1 against Bodo. I mean, I don't know if this is a reflection of how bad Inter and Juventus are doing, or if this is just a general reflection of how bad Italian football has fallen. Remember, the Serie A used to be one of the best leagues in the world, and now, I mean, I don't know, man. They have definitely fallen behind. And Mr. Javier Tebas, if you keep on this path, well, we could see the same thing happen to La Liga, God forbid. And then Atletico de Madrid choking against Club Brugge 3-3. Over the weekend, they choked against Rayo Vallecano, a bottom of the table team, and they lost 3-0. And here, 3-3 against Club Brugge. Of course, the return, the second leg will be in Madrid, so I think Atletico still have a chance of going through. But it's absolutely crazy how they defeat Real Madrid they score 5 goals against Real Madrid, they score 4 goals against us, and then they just choke. They get knocked out of the Spanish Super Cup. They are 15 points behind Real Madrid in La Liga. I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. But anyways, that's the Champions League results. Let me know, who do you think out of these 16 teams, who will be the 8 that will go through? Again, like I said here, I think it might be Galatasaray, PSG for sure, Dortmund, maybe Benfica, maybe Real Madrid. This one is a toss-up. Newcastle, Leverkusen. I think Inter Milan has a shot, but I think I want Bodo to go through. And then Club Brugge and Atletico. I think Atletico will be able to turn things around in Madrid. Anyways, let me know you guys' opinions. And from the Champions League, we move on back to Spain, because these were the signs today in the city of Barcelona. These signs that is appeared of Messi with that iconic celebration, holding his own shirt, showing it to the Madrid fans when he scored that late goal at the Santiago Bernabeu that made it 3-2, or 2-3, I should say, since Barcelona were playing away, with the phrase "ganas de tornarte a beur." I think that's how you say it. I don't know. I can't speak Catalan, but pretty much the translation is, the desire to see you once again. Now, where did these signs come from? Well, it came from the candidate, Marc Casado. He's one of the candidates running for the Barcelona presidency. He paid for this campaign, and of course, with a promise to try to bring Messi back to the club if he's elected president. Now, this is the explanation that Marc Casado had in regards to these signs. He said, "We do things right. That's what I'll tell you. This is a tribute, the tribute he didn't receive when he was expelled from the club, and which he deserves. We hope to live up to it. We hope that all the videos being sent by members and fans from around the world will make him see that there isn't just one voice. Every time we meet with members, they tell us that we have to give it our all to bring Leo Messi back. Since 2021, we've been saying that one of the biggest strategic errors in the club's history was expelling Leo Messi. And we've been saying since 2021 the need for Leo Messi to return. We need him. He's fundamental to Barca's present and future. And I 100% agree with Maxia. I think it was a huge error, of course, letting Messi go because he was not only our greatest player and the greatest player in the history of football, period, but also the money that the Messi name generated in marketing, in ticketing, in merchandising. I mean, they say his salary was 100 mil, but he generated in 300 mil in all that stuff that I just mentioned. And yes, I do agree that Messi should come back. Not as a player. I think we're past that. I think that chapter is over, but he should definitely come back. So he could be, so he can have his goodbye at the Camp Nou, hopefully when the Camp Nou is finished. And B, I think our legends should always be linked to the club, and I think Messi should come back and be part of the club, whether as an ambassador, as some kind of a position within the club, as a board member, I don't know, something. At least as an ambassador, because he is the greatest player in the history of our club, and he should be linked to Barcelona. But of course, as we know, as long as Jan Laporta is at the club, Messi doesn't want anything to do with, I don't want to say Barca, but with Laporta. So if Laporta's there, obviously Messi's not going to be want to be linked with the club. Now, Marc Casado does mention that about how voices, every time we meet with the members, they tell us that they have that they give our all to bring Leo Messi. And he talks about how hopefully Messi can hear all those voices. And what he's referencing is, I don't know if you could see it clearly in the picture, but there's names on the sign. And they're in white. It's like you could kind of see it in the background, just lists and lists of names. Those are the name of the socios that have signed on to this banner. Kind of like, hey, it's not just me who wants you back. It's all these socios, and their names are on there. Anyways, that's all for the first segment. Let's do the comment section. And then, of course, we are going to talk about the big bombshell. The former referee pretty much putting an end to all the Negreira allegations. Not a good look for El Chiringuito, because that's where this referee dropped this bombshell, was at the Chiringuito, which is, as we know, or if you don't know, it is the mouthpiece of Florentino Perez. It's literally a TV show that Florentino Perez funded and started, so it can be his mouthpiece, the Real Madrid mouthpiece in Spain. It is the most watched football show in Spain, and that's where this ref dropped the bombshell in regards to Negreira. But we'll talk about it after we do a few comments. And of course, first, I have to take a sip of my Fermelo. Delicious. All right, let's see. Roger says, Mo, good evening. Tuning in from Tobago. Mo, do you think we could bounce back from these bad performances? I do, 100%. And I'll tell you why. Because these bad performances are simply a result of these players not playing to their best. We've seen what this team is capable of when the players do play at their best. We've seen how they're capable of competing against anyone, and they can compete for any trophy. Of course, winning is a different thing, but competing, these players can compete. This team can compete with anyone and can compete for all the trophies. But the problem is when they don't play to their best form is when you can see the cracks, right? So the good thing is that we know this team is capable of competing because we've seen it compete. So yes, they can bounce back, right? Because one thing, if this was maybe Koeman's Barca, right, with players like Braithwaite and what's that Portuguese guy, Gomez, and players like that, or where it's like, or like Firpo and Semedo, where it's like, it was a pretty shitty team. And in that case, I'm like, all right, there's not much we could do because the team's quality is very, very low. But here, we know that this team is capable of a lot because we've seen this team accomplish a lot. So it's a matter of will rather than can they. It's more of will they, right? So yes, I do believe they'll be able to bounce back. Kid Prodigy says, did you not live stream on Monday or did I just miss it? No, I did live stream on Monday. Let me see. Let me double check just in case I'm misremembering. I misspoke. No, I didn't do Monday live stream because Monday was the match. So instead of a live stream, I did the match, post-match analysis, live analysis. That's what happened. And my man, with the donation. Shin, thank you so much, my friend, for your incredible generosity and for always supporting the channel. But Shin says, upset over our past two performances. The squad needs to realize no team we play is afraid of the crest anymore. They need to get it through their heads. The crest doesn't make the squad. Rather, the squad makes the crest. 100% agree with you, my friend. 100%. And I'll tell you why. Because, like you said, these players, people are not just going to fear you just because you wear the Barca colors. People are going to fear you because you play in a way that instills fear because you're that good. And that's how people respect you as a team. But as long as you go around throwing away first halves, as long as you go around playing at 60, 70% intensity, you're not going to instill fear in anyone because why would anyone fear you if you're playing half-ass, right? It's like I always say, right, when people are trying to defend mediocrity, and unfortunately we have a lot of fans who try to defend mediocrity. It is like Barcelona was not born a great club. On November 29th, 1888 or 89, I was confused. 1888 or 1889? Anyways, when Joan Gamper formed the club, Barcelona wasn't like all of a sudden, oh, great club. No, it was nobody, right? It was just a group of people who were left to play football. Barcelona became great over the years because great people came and did great things. And that's what made Barcelona great. And in order for Barcelona to remain great, we're going to need great people to come and continue doing great things. Because when you don't, well, you stop being great, right? We saw it during those years after Luis Enrique left. We were signing players like Junior Firpo, like Semedo, like Braithwaite, Malcolm. We were no longer bringing great players and great people to the club, and therefore our club stopped being great. Because the same way a club doesn't become great out of thin air, you have to bring great people that do great things to make it great. For it to continue being great, you also need great people to come and do great things. And this is why we should always demand the best out of anyone that comes to the club. That includes players, coaches, board members, presidents. Yesterday, someone commented on a video like, you should not criticize Laporta because it's election. I'm like, what? That is the most mediocre shit I've ever fucking heard. Are you fucking kidding me? I shouldn't criticize Laporta because he's a candidate? What? Are you fucking kidding me? Bro, we're talking about the presidency of FC Barcelona. The most important position in the entire club. And you don't want me to criticize people who are running for that position? Buddy, that's the most important position at the club. If anything, we have to be extra critical of any candidate that wants to run for that position. Because we're entrusting the club to you. We're putting the club's future and fate in your hands. Of course, we gotta criticize and analyze and put you under a microscope. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing? Don't criticize Laporta. Jesus Christ, man. Sometimes people say the darnest things that I'm like, wow. Wow. Like, what is it? Is our school system failing? Are people not being taught to reason, to think? Jesus. I mean, sometimes I'm like, holy fuck. But yes, you're 100% right, my friend. These players need to start understanding that just because they wear the Barca colors, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden people are going to be like, oh, no, it's Barca. No, you have to play in a way that people say, oh, no, it's Barca. But thank you, my friend, for your donation. Let's do one more comment, and then we'll talk about Negreira because we got some juicy stuff. Justice Boya says, hello, Mo. Justice Boya from the Gambia. Do you see Barca shining and signing any left back, right back, and a center forward this summer because Kunde and Balde really need to rest? Now they're giving us zero help. It's all going to depend on the final numbers once we close the financial year. Right, the financial year closes on, is it June 30th or May 30th? I can't remember. But in June, the fiscal year will end, and we'll see how much money we made. We'll see how much money we've spent. We'll see if we can count those 100 million euros from the VIP seats. We'll see if we count if we go under the 1-1 rule, and based on that, we'll know how much money we have and how much from that money we can spend, right? Because if we're not under the 1-1 rule, even if we have 100 mil, let's say left over, you can't use that full entire 100 million unless you're under the 1-1 rule. So it's all going to depend on our finances by the end of the season. And at this point, no. Right now, as of today, February 18, 2026, no. There's no way we can sign all those three. Because, of course, the number one priority is going to be the center forward, and that's going to cost an arm and a leg, right? Because center forwards ain't cheap, especially when you want someone who's already made that can hit the ground running. Unless, of course, we bring Blahovic, then that could change things. But at this point, no, I don't see those three signings because I just don't see how we could afford those three signings. Anyways, let's get back to the news. Because we do have a bombshell. Yeah, yesterday during El Chiringuito, which is, again, a Florentino Perez mouthpiece. It's a show that was literally funded and established by Florentino Perez so he can act as his mouthpiece in Spain, the most watched football show in Spain. Invited a referee, a retired referee. We talked about him during yesterday's video. And his name is Urizar Azpitarte. Now, Urizar Azpitarte is this guy. Again, retired referee, Basque, a supporter of Athletic Club de Bilbao. And he, revealed that while he was an active ref, he was a shareholder of Real Sociedad and 6 other clubs, which, of course, is an incredibly huge conflict of interest, because how can you be ref when you partly own or are a shareholder of 7 different clubs? That's a conflict of interest, because it's in your benefit that those clubs win, that those clubs do well, because the better they do, the higher their value, the richer you are. And yet he was allowed to ref, which is absolutely incredible, right? I talked about this in detail in yesterday's video, and I said it's incredible because A, it just shows what a shit show Spanish refereeing is, but B, it just shows the bias, right, against Barca, because if this guy had said, oh, I was a shareholder of FC Barcelona when I was active, my God, I mean, they wouldn't have police agents breaking down Barcelona's doors and confiscating files and computers like they already did in the Negreira case. And there would be criminal investigations, and there would be headlines, and we would be talking about this for the next decade. But because he's just a shareholder of other clubs, nobody cares, right? Now, Urizar Azpitarte dropped more bombshells at the Chiringuito, and these ones concerned Negreira, the former retired referee Jose Maria Enriquez Negreira, who Barcelona paid his company between the years 2001 and 2018 for refereeing reports. And during those years, he was an honorary vice president of the CTA. A very, very important distinction, by the way, because people like to say, oh, Barcelona paid the CTA because Negreira was a vice president. Okay, first of all, they didn't pay Negreira. They paid a company of his, a consulting company of his that was ran by him and by his son for referee reports, which Barcelona have already produced. So they do exist, even though Madridistas like to pretend that they don't. And B, he was an honorary vice president, meaning that he had no power in the CTA. It was an honorary position. He didn't even receive a salary for that position. But don't take my word. Take the word of, again, the former ref, Urizar Azpitarte, who, at the time Barcelona were paying Negreira, on Negreira's company, he too was part of the CTA. And he worked alongside Negreira, and he knew what Negreira's role is. Now, Urizar Azpitarte acknowledged during this interview that Negreira did not have the power to select refs, like to assign refs to matches. That the person who assigned refs, or who was in charge of assigning refs, was this guy, Urizar Azpitarte, and Sanchez Arminio. They're the ones who assign refs, not Negreira, even though Madridistas like to claim that Negreira assigned refs. Also, Azpitarte acknowledged that Negreira had no power in promoting or demoting refs. What he did do when refs were promoted, his job was to notify them. He didn't choose which refs got promoted or demoted. He didn't vote. He didn't even give his opinion. He was in charge of letting the refs know that were either promoted or demoted. So he was a messenger. And finally, Aspitarte stated that, clarify what Negreira's job was as an honorary vice president. And his job was to maintain relationships with the local federations. You know how there's like a Catalan Federation football, a Basque Federation football. There's different federation footballs, and they all fall under the Royal Spanish Football Federation. So his job was just a liaison. Reach out to them, see if they need something, report it back to the CTA, and that's it. That was it. That was all of Negreira's job. Maintain relationship between the CTA and the federations. He did not assign refs to matches. He did not grade refs like they have always claimed. And he did not have the power to promote or demote. Now, why is that important? Well, that's important because, the initial allegations were that Barcelona were bribing refs through Negreira, right? Barcelona hired Negreira's company. They would pay this company money for the reports. And the allegations were saying that the reports were just a cover-up, right? That Barcelona would give money to Negreira's company. Negreira would then grab that money and pay the refs so they can rule in favor of Barca. This, of course, 3 years into the investigation, they haven't found a single piece of evidence that supports this hypothesis because it's bullshit. I mean, you don't have to look for evidence to understand that Negreira was paid $7 million over the 18 years. If you do the math, that comes down to approximately $400,000 per season. You're telling me you can buy an entire league with $300,000 to $400,000? You're fucking dreaming. There's 20 First Division referees, 20. Each one of them makes $350,000 a year. If you got to bribe a ref, you have to offer him more than what they actually make, because why would they sacrifice or risk their €350,000 a year salary and risk going to prison if it's not going to be for more money? And again, if it's $300,000 a year, you can't even cover one ref's salary. And even if you somehow entice that one ref to make an extra $300,000 by becoming corrupt, what about the other 19 refs? That ref is only going to ref you once or twice. There's 38 matches in La Liga. So it's like just the math isn't mathing. It doesn't add up. But anyways, not a single shred of evidence that Negreira took the money from Barca and used it to bribe the refs. So then they changed their hypothesis, right? The judge in charge of the investigation said, okay, I got an idea. It wasn't through direct bribery, right? It was through the promotion and demotion system, which is, in other words, hey, ref, if you rule in favor of Barca, you stay in First Division. If you don't, you get demoted. And someone else who's willing to rule in favor of Barca gets promoted. Now, why would that be important for the ref? Because obviously in First Division, your salary is 10 times more than Second Division. So that would be kind of like your incentive. Oh, okay, I rule in favor of Barca, so I stay in First Division. I keep making money. Otherwise, I get demoted and I make less money. Well, that hypothesis was quickly busted or debunked when it was shown that Negreira had no power to promote or demote. So then Madridistas changed the story. They're like, oh, well, it was because he was in charge of assigning refs. So, if you were a ref and you wanted to be assigned to the big matches, you would have to please Negreira by ruling in favor of Barca. Well, turns out he also didn't have the power to assign refs. Then they changed the story. They're like, oh, I know how. It was through the grading, right? Because the refs didn't get promoted or Negreira didn't promote or demote the refs, but he did do the grading. And refs get promoted and demoted based on the grading. Well, turns out he also didn't grade referees either. And all these things have been confirmed by previous people who worked at the CTA with Negreira, like Villar. And now, once again, they're confirmed by another person, Urizar Aspitarte, who worked alongside Negreira at the CTA and made it very clear, no, Negreira did not have the power to promote or demote referees. No, he didn't have the power to assign referees to matches. And no, he didn't grade referees either. His only job was to maintain relationship between the CTA and the local federations. So in other words, Negreira was a nobody. So not only is there no evidence of Negreira physically bribing refs with the money that Barca paid him, but now there's not even any links between him and refs to where you could say, well, it was through promotion, demotion, grading, assigning, because he didn't have the power to do any of that. He was a nobody at the CTA. He held an honorary title. He didn't even have a salary, and he didn't have the power to influence anything. Now, what I truly think happened in the Negreira case is that, well, Barcelona were robbed. That's what I think. I think those in charge were stealing money from the club, and they used Negreira's company and the refereeing reports to launder that money. Right? I pay you 100, let's say $1 million. You give me a receipt for 100,000 worth of refereeing reports, and we both pocket the 900,000 difference. That's what I truly think happened. But as you can see, 3 years into this investigation, and there's a single shred of evidence that Barcelona influenced the referees or the competition, unlike Real Madrid, who truly are influencing the competition through Real Madrid TV. But anyways, let's get back to the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Alejandro Balde. But first, I'm going to take another sip. Of my Fermelo. Let's see. Chuchu says, why is everyone not blaming the coach? Pretty easy, because when you watch Frankie de Jong walking around the field, when you watch Jules Koundé walking around the field, when you see Dani Olmo walking around the field, how are you going to blame Flick? Now, don't get me wrong, Flick does take part of the blame, but you can't put the full blame on the coach when the players are walking around doing nothing. Because it doesn't matter what system it is. It doesn't matter if it's the high line or the low block or the mid block or tiki-taka or whatever it is. If your players are walking around and they're not doing anything, no system is going to work. Simple as that. You know, people used to tell me before, oh, you know, it's the players are tired because the Flick system requires a lot of intensity. And it's like, bro, every system requires a lot of intensity. We're talking about professional athletes here. We're talking about a professional sport where athletes make millions. That's why they make the millions, because they do things that the average human is not capable of. That includes playing with incredibly high intensity, or at least that's what they're supposed to be doing. That's why they earn the big bucks. So yeah, that's why. Now, again, Flick still does get some of the blame. You know, against Girona, I think it should have been Bernal. Now, I get it. He's, you know, still recovering, blah, blah, blah. Bring him on earlier. There was no, I mean, you see in the midfield wasn't working because Frankie apparently needs his hand held by Pedri the whole time. And if Pedri's not there, he becomes pretty much completely useless. You're seeing Olmo that wasn't doing shit. Bring in Bernal earlier. You know, Lamine Yamal was completely zero energy. Maybe bring in Rooney Bardarji in his place. Now, Rooney did come in later on for Rafinha, but, you know, there were some things that he could have done. Koundé, how long are we going to tolerate his bullshit? You telling me there's no one in the academy that can take his place? Because at this point, even a Cone would be better than Koundé. So, yes, Flick does take some of the blame. Don't get me wrong. But it's also hard. But it's hard to put the full blame on him when, again, you have players like Koundé literally walking around, acting like they're too good to be there. Like, I'm just too cool, man. Like, I don't need to run. Dervan says, hey, Mo, what's up? Just got the chance to catch one of your live streams. I'm a police officer in Jamaica, but it's always an honor to catch your lives. Barcelona will turn this around. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you turning in to the live stream, catching the live stream, and thank you for your work. I can't imagine it's easy to be a police officer, so thank you for your work, my friend, and thank you for your comment. Emmanuel says, Mo, how about this lineup against Atletico? Rafinha as a striker, Rashford on the left, Lamine, I'm guessing you meant Lamine on the right, Frankie, Bernal, and Pedri in the midfield. At the back should be Balde, Maldini, Kouarsi, and Eric. I don't agree with Rafinha being a striker because Rafinha is not a striker. That's one. Two, we've seen Rafinha miss some very clear chances, which tells you why he's not a striker, right? He doesn't have that killer instinct. Now, I trust Rafinha in front of goal more than Ferran, but nonetheless, Rafinha shines best when he plays on the left. So if you want to include Rafinha and Rashford at the same time, I would include Rafinha. I would put Rafinha on the left and Rashford as a center forward with Lamine on the right. I would much rather that combination rather than Rafinha as a striker. Because again, Rafinha shines best on the left as a left winger, even though he's technically a right winger. It's crazy, right? But yeah. So I would put Rashford as a 9 in place of Ferran. Now, as far as the midfield, yeah, Bernal and Pedri, that would be amazing. But I don't know if that's a match for Bernal to start from the beginning, given that's going to be a very high intense match. And, you know, Bernal, I don't know if he's ready to play full 90 minutes of high intensity. And now if you start him, then, or maybe if we do start him and take him out at the 60th minute. But yeah, Bernal and Pedri, I like it in the midfield. I don't know about, if you got to include Pedri, then it would have to be Bernal and Frankie in a double pivot with Pedri as the attacking mid. But I would rather still Bernal and Pedri in a double pivot, and maybe Olmo or Fermin in an attacking mid. And yeah, in the back line, I mean, I wouldn't mind having Eric Garcia at the place of Kunde, honestly, because he's been so bad. And yeah, Kouarsi, Maldini, and Balde. I'm down with that lineup. Nabeed. And Black B says we need to stop getting attached to the dead weights and let them go. We need players ready to produce and hungry for success. I agree with that. I think there's a lot of players on the squad that need to go, but you also have to be cognizant of the situation that Barcelona are in. You know, it's like some of these players, you get rid of them, but who do you replace them with, right? Because there's no money, no financial fair play. But yeah, no, I agree with you. There's a lot of dead weight that if Barcelona was healthy, those players would have never been signed to begin with. I don't think Barcelona would have ever signed someone like Ferran Torres had we been healthy, financially speaking. I don't think Barcelona would have promoted someone like Gerard Martin. Even though I like Gerard, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a big defender of his because like what he does with what he has, like it's a lot, right? He's not he's not an incredibly talented player, but yeah, he performs the job. It's not a wow job, but he does the job. But I think a financially healthy Barcelona, I don't see Gerard Martin starting in this team, right? But because we're in a situation that we are, we have to rely on players like that. So yeah, I do agree with it. But at the same time, our hands a little bit tied, right? And Chuchu says, hello, Mo. How's your day? What's up, Chuchu? It's great now that I'm doing this live streaming, now that I'm with all my Barca family. Thank you for tuning in. It's always good to see you in the chat section. And 100 grand M5E with the donation. Thank you so much, my friend, for your generosity and for supporting the channel. But 100 grand says, Flick is a go coach, but he needs to adapt to the situation when the highlight ain't working. Yeah, he does need to sometimes adjust the highline, which we've seen him do. But against Atletico Madrid, it's just like he wouldn't do it, and that I didn't understand why. There's moments where sometimes maybe you need to drop a little bit more. So I do agree with that. And again, we've seen him do it. I just don't know what was going in through his mind or what was he seeing that we weren't seeing that didn't allow him to change it. But yeah, against Atletico Madrid, should have definitely changed. But here's the thing: even if you drop the line more, if your front players are not pressing, Atletico Madrid are still going to get those passes through, right? And that's the whole point of pressing. Someone the other day commented that, like, your only answer is press. I'm like, that's because it is the answer. It's kind of like telling the goalkeeper, oh, your only answer is to stop the balls. It's like, yes, because you need to do that in order to prevent the goal. I mean, the whole idea of pressing is you want to make it as uncomfortable as possible for the other team to get the pass to the back of your defenders, right? I mean, there's three scenarios that can happen here. A, you press and you get the ball back. Perfect. That's the best scenario possible. So now you don't have to worry about a pass to the back of your defenders because you want the ball back. B, you try to win the ball. You don't succeed, but in the attempt, you force the other guy to maybe make a side pass or maybe have to dribble you before getting the pass out. And in doing that, you give your defense an extra second or two to set the offside trap or to get into position. The other team gets the pass out, offside trap. Works. Third scenario, you try to get the ball, you don't win the ball. The other player doesn't need to dribble you or make a side pass. He can still get the pass out. But in your attempt, you make it a little bit uncomfortable for him. So the pass ends up being inaccurate or too long or too short or it gets intercepted. That's the whole point of pressing, is to make it as uncomfortable as possible and delay as much as possible that pass from the opposing team, which gives your defense the time to get into position. But if you're not pressing, the other team is going to get the pass through, and it's going to be an accurate pass. It's going to be a quick pass. It's not going to give your defense any time to set up the offside trap or to get into position, and you're going to be caught with your pants around your ankles. And this is the worst part, is that the ones that take the whole brunt of the blame is the defense, right? When they're the ones who are getting fucked because the front people are not doing their job, but they're the ones who catch the brunt of the blame because, that's the easy thing to notice. That's the easy thing to say, oh, it's the defense, right? Because people always want a scapegoat, and they always go to the easiest scapegoat. They don't want to do the thinking. They don't want to analyze a little bit more. They just want someone to scream at. And while the easiest thing to scream at is the defense. But anyways, thank you for your donation, my friend. Let's do the next bit of news because, ladies and gentlemen, Alejandro Balde is drawing interest from the Premier League, and more specifically from Manchester United. Now, it seems that Manchester United have set their sights on Alejandro Balde. They are interested in the services of the Barcelona Academy player, and that they're willing to offer as much as 40 million euros for the 22-year-old left back who is not going through his best time at Barcelona. Now, Balde does have a contract until 2028 with the club. He renewed, I think it was last season or the season before. He has a release clause of 1 billion euros, so 1,000 million euros. Means that any club that wants to sign him, they are forced to negotiate, right? Unless they want to pay the 1 billion. In that case, take them, right? 1 billion, that would solve pretty much our entire debt. Well, we owe 1.3, but still, that would really save the club financially speaking. And again, ManU are looking to offer 40 mil. Now, Balde, of course, has had his run of inconsistent performances all throughout this season, which has put him under the spotlight. He has drawn a lot of criticism and a lot of backlash from the fans. And of course, ManU are seeing this, and well, they're licking their fingers thinking, hey, maybe this is our opportunity to try to bring Balde over, give him a change of scenery, bring him to a club where perhaps, fans don't hate him, at least yet, because the ManU things change quickly. Now, of course, Balde is still a very important player for Barcelona, so I don't see Barcelona wanting to sell him. I don't see Balde wanting to leave, being that he's an academy player. But of course, the question is, would you sell Balde to ManU for 40 million euros if you had the opportunity or the chance, or it was up to you? I personally wouldn't. I think Balde has the potential of being one of the best left backs in the world. He's already been there. We've seen what Balde can do. I mean, his pace, his strength, his ability to cover that entire flank is something that's very difficult to find. And we've seen when Balde performs, he can put out incredible performances. Last season, he was absolutely incredible. He was one of the best left backs in Europe. This season, not so much. So, of course, that tells you that this guy has the skill, has the talent to be one of the best left backs in the world. But right now, he's not doing it. And for that reason, I wouldn't sell him to ManU because we know what he's capable of. Right? This is not a Ferran Torres situation where Ferran is Ferran, right? He can give you what he can and nothing better because he's limited, right? But Balde has potential, a lot more than Ferran. Plus, people forget, Balde's only 22 years old, which means he still has ceiling to grow and improve. And if we already saw what he's capable of at 21, which was last season, I'm sure he can do even much, much better as he hits his prime years. Plus, here's an interesting fact about Balde. A lot of people would consider that Davis, Alfonso Davis, is the best left back in the world, right? And yet, Davis has never had 10 assists in one season like Balde has. That was last season. So that's an interesting number to keep in mind. Now, of course, not everything is stats. Just something to put things into perspective. So I personally would not sell Balde. I know what he's capable of. I know his potential that's only going to keep growing as he enters his prime years. So I wouldn't, and definitely not for 40 mil. I mean, I would want at least 80 for Balde. And again, I wouldn't even want to sell him. This is if the player tells me, okay, I want to leave. I'll be like, okay, fine. But we're going to ask for at least 80. 40, I think that's a spit in the face. But anyways, let me know your guys' thoughts. Would you sell Balde? Yes? No? If so, for how much? Is 40 enough? Is it too little? Would you like more? Let me know in the chat section. And now, let's get back to the comment section. But first, I got to take another sip. That's the stuff. Let's see. The Jeff said, Mo, don't get so worked up with the dumb comments. You have to realize a lot of these people online are kids. You could be arguing the 16-year-old. I realize it. You know what? I try not to actually. I don't argue that much. Sometimes I do. But even then, like, I'll just do like 2-3 replies. And then I'm like, all right, whatever. I just tell them, okay, sure, you win. Like, you tell me this shirt is yellow. Fuck it. It's yellow. You're right, bro. You win. Because, yeah, sometimes I'm like, man, what am I reading here? What am I reading here? But anyways. Oh, speaking of 16-year-olds, I keep getting comments of people like, oh, you shouldn't curse because kids watch this. And I always have to answer the same comments. So I'm just going to save myself some time. My content is set for 18 and older, okay? This is why I curse, because 18 and older. My analytics show me that there aren't anyone under 18 watching because the analytics break it down. You should see YouTube's analytics, by the way. They break down like so much crap. Like they break down the audience by age, sex, location. You could do it by continent, country, even all the way down to the city or town that people are at. Not like individual, like I can't see where you at, the Jeff, but like in general, like how much percentage or how many people live in a certain city or certain towns who are subscribed to the channel. Like the analytics literally break down things like crazy. And yeah, there's no 18-year-olds, under 18-year-olds that watch this channel. This channel is set up for being 18 and over. Now, of course, kids could still open an account who are under 18 and lie about their age and say that they are 18, but there's so much I could do, right? I mean, if you have a kid and he's pretending to be an adult online so he can access adult content, well, that's on you as a parent, okay? Don't fucking blame that on me. So please, stop using kids as an excuse to say, please stop cursing, because if you are uncomfortable with cursing, just tell me, hey, I'm uncomfortable with cursing. I understand, but don't use kids as an excuse, okay? Because kids are not allowed to watch my content. You know, I have it set up that way. And, I should reduce my cursing, but sometimes it's tough, you know? But at the end of the day, we're all adults. And honestly, if you can't handle some cursing, like, come on. Let's all grow the fuck up, all right? Reaper says, Balde out. I don't care. These young kids burst to the scene too young, and now they are paying for it with injury. People need to blame here is Xabi and Koeman. I don't think there's anything special about Balde's injuries, unless you understood that the title meant that Balde's injured, because he's not. I mean, yes, Balde has suffered injuries in the past, but I don't think there's anything makes him injury prone or anything. I think his injuries have been consistent with, being a left back, because left backs cover a lot of ground, or a fullback, I should say. I don't know. Shin says, if I had $1 for every time Negreira has been mentioned over the last several years, I could fucking retire. Every time I hear his name, I want to puke. I'm so tired of hearing it. Yeah, man. The thing is, Madridistas are not interested in what happened in the Negreira case. They just want something to yell out, some excuse, something to justify all those years of Barca dominance, right? They don't care what happened in the Negreira case. They don't care what the truth about behind the Negreira case is. They don't care if Negreira is real or not real. They just want something, right? And they've been looking for this for a while. For people who've been following the team for quite some time. And I don't mean following and watching the matches, but like following what happens behind the scenes, like with more details, not just what happens on the field. First they try to do the scandal, the Biarato, scandal, where they went down and went back and like kind of broke down the numbers and were like, oh, look how many fouls, red cards in favor of Barcelona as red cards against Barcelona, and penalties. And they try to do this whole scandal to show that referees were in favor of Barca because, look, Barca gets less red cards than the rest of the teams, or Barcelona get more PKs in their favor than. And I mean, that was stupid because you need to put context behind it. Like, okay, yeah, let's say Barcelona have the most penalties, which they didn't. But that alone doesn't prove anything. You have to break down those penalties and see how many of them were clear penalties, how many of them were clear penalties that should have been penalties, and how many of them were, 50-50. That gives you a better understanding of whether refs truly favored Barca. For example, right now, Real Madrid, I think, have like 15 or 16 penalties, and the second place has like 6 or 7. That alone is not an indication of anything, that Real Madrid have the most penalties. Maybe they're just that good, that they're constantly attacking, so other teams have to constantly foul them in the box. And that's how they get so many penalties. So that number alone doesn't mean anything. But when you start breaking it down and you see how many of those penalties shouldn't have been penalties, or how many of those penalties are as a result of dives from Vinicius and Mbappe, now it starts to paint a different picture, right? So they tried that with the Biarato. That didn't work. That didn't stick. So then they tried the whole doping accusations. They accused Barca players of doping. That didn't stick. So now they found a new thing, a new excuse to justify Barcelona dominance, and it's a Negreira. And that's, so far, nothing has come out of this. But of course, it doesn't stop them because, again, a lot of times people are not looking for, an actual reason. They're just looking for something to yell out. Negreira! Because unfortunately these days people are just fucking retarded. Or maybe they always were, and social media just made us more aware of how retarded people are. But anyways. Let's do the last bit of news. Because Barcelona are working on a contract renewal of another midfielder. And this one will surprise you a little bit, or maybe not. But this midfielder is no other than Marc Casado. Now, I said this might surprise you a little bit because, of course, Casado has not been getting a lot of minutes as of late. In fact, this entire season has been getting very little minutes, even though last season he was pretty much essential, right? During the first half of the season, he was a starter in every single match. I thought he did absolutely great. And then when Frankie de Jong came back during the second half of the season, slowly Casado started losing prominence. And well, this season, he's pretty much been relegated to the bench with getting a few minutes here and there. But despite the loss of protagonism for Marc Casado on the team, Barcelona are now working on renewing his contract. Now, Casado's contract expires in 2028, and Barcelona, of course, want to extend it by more, but they want to do it by the end of the season. They know there's no rush, it's not like there's this transfer market in April or something. So they're looking to do it by the end of the season, and negotiations are set to take place over the next few weeks. Now, how long Barcelona want to extend the contract by, and how much are they going to pay him? Are they going to pay him the same or more or less? Well, not less. It's never less. That is obviously still going to be determined as negotiations take place over the next few weeks. The parties will agree on how much more they're going to extend the contract and what the financial terms will look like. Now, of course, there is the possibility that Casado could reassess the situation, maybe decide not only not to renew, but leave. But at this point, Casado is committed to the club. Casado wants to stay in Barcelona, but given that his reduced minutes, that could always change. Hopefully not. Now, if you're wondering why would Barcelona want to renew Casado's contract if he's not getting that many minutes, well, Barcelona consider, of course, like Flick does, because Flick blocked Casado's exit. In fact, Atletico Madrid tried to poach him over the winter. He also had interest from clubs in the summer. He wanted to stay. Flick wanted him to stay. And the reason why is because his profile, right? He's a pure defensive midfielder, something that his kind of profile doesn't really exist on the team. He probably would be the most defensive midfielder we have. Also, he is an academy player. He is fully committed to the club and didn't cost us a single penny. So that's not a bad player to have on the bench, someone who didn't cost you much, who has a different profile. And, of course, his professionalism, where, again, even though he hasn't been getting any minutes, hasn't complained, just puts his head down, works, and gets the job done. Now, my question to you is, Casado, should Barcelona renew him? Yes, no? Let me know in the chat section or in the comment section. I personally wouldn't mind keeping Casado, even though his performances haven't been that well. I think he's more suffering from what Eddie Garcia used to go through under Xavi. I think his bad performances have been mostly due to the fact that he hasn't been getting consistent minutes. And we know when players don't get consistent minutes, they get rusty. And then in order to shake that rust off, they need consistent minutes to shake it off. But this guy never gets to shake the rust off because he gets some minutes, then he goes back to the bench for a long time, then minutes. And we saw that happen to Eddie Garcia. But now we see how different player he is with the consistent minutes that he's been getting. I think Casado's kind of that player. But I don't know. That's my assessment. What do you guys think? Let me know. All right, that is all the news. Let's do a few more comments and then we'll end this. And I will be posting another video because, because there's more news. PK4Chema says, what are your thoughts on what Mourinho said about the referee having a note saying not to give certain players yellows or else they would be suspended for the next match? I'm not surprised. I mean, look, when Ramos left Real Madrid, the first thing he said is that, yes, he did get treated differently when he was a Real Madrid player, right? And it's about Ramos, Sergio Ramos, a Real Madrid legend, right? Alvaro Morata, maybe not a Madrid legend, but he too admitted it. Kroos, I mean, every player that has left Madrid has admitted the same thing, that when you're in Madrid, you get favoritism by refs, you get treated differently. So I'm not surprised that Mourinho now, who's not a Madrid coach, is saying the same thing, that there is something going on because, I mean, we all see it, right? Bisca Michael says, not going to lie, I feel like this attack could use a better left back and or right backs and modern striker, and we are both able to combine better with the attack, and the modern striker helps in the build-up. Look, our fullbacks are capable of being good fullbacks because we saw them last season. Koundé and Balde were superb last season. But right now, they're just going through a really bad form. So we know they're capable of it. It's just going to be a matter of how we can get them back to that state, right? And my nose is really itchy, man. Fuck, these allergies. Mr. Street says, my biggest fear is the board of and Laporta not being as transparent while the club's financial standing. None of the low-cost players Flick asked for this winter window were even looked at. Transparency has always been a big complaint of mine about Laporta because we've seen very little of it. And Yomi Data says, do you think the guys are too tired or pressed or disinterested? I think they're too confident. I think they feel like they're too good. They don't need to try, and that's why they've been playing the way they've been playing. This is why I thought that Atletico Madrid defeat would remind them that, yeah, they're good, but they still need to try. But apparently it didn't because against Girona, they came out also half asleep. But maybe they thought they didn't need to try against Girona because, Girona's the bottom of the table team. I think that's what it is. Jabba the Hutt says, I don't support racism, but everybody is bending over pants down for Vinny. But when the same thing happened to Balde and Lamine, everybody turns the other way. The Vinny PR is ridiculous. Oh, 100%, because it's not just Lamine and Balde. I mean, Nico Williams, Iñaki Williams. I mean, black players in La Liga get abused all the time. And not only nobody cares, nobody even hears about it. But yet, Vinny, it's like you sneeze on the guy and it's like, he sneezed on me because I'm black. And then everybody freaks the fuck out. And it's insane. It's insane. Alexi says, I'm 100% open to selling Balde. About 40 million seems a bit low. I've been looking for at least around 70 million minimum, especially since it would be full profit. I think Joffre will be better than him. Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't sell him, but if I did, it would be at least for 80. 40 mil, I think, would be an insult. And Chucho says, Joffre better than Balde. Mo, who are these people? I think Joffre has the potential of being better than Balde, But I wouldn't say Joffre is better than Balde right now because obviously Joffre hasn't really proved anything since he's only had very, very little minutes with the first team. Do I think Joffre could be better than Balde? Yes, I think he has the potential to be. But to say that right now, no, I just have nothing to base that opinion on because, we haven't seen Joffre play with the first team. And until we see that, well, it's going to be hard to make that assessment or make that statement. Dorian says, can't wait for Pedri to be back. I don't know how people can watch Barcelona without Pedri and say he isn't the best midfielder in the world. It's clearly a difference of how Barca play when he's there. 100%, my friend. I agree. And then last comment, and then we'll end this. But Nesta George says, Kunde and Balde has no competition. That's the reason. 100% agree with you. Again, we saw their very good forms last season. This season, a big dip in form. And yes, I do think it's due to, that they have no competition. So when you have no competition, remember Jordi Alba? He didn't have competition for several seasons, and his form dipped a lot, even though we all know what Jordi Alba was capable of. So, because here's the thing, when nobody's putting pressure on you that they might take your spot, you don't have to try, right? Because what's going to happen? You're going to bench me? Guess what? There's nobody to bench me. So it's going to be me regardless, whether I play at 100% or 10%. Anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be posting another video in a little bit, so stay tuned to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, be scars.